There have been several bombardments across Iranian territory by the Israeli Defense Force, launching missiles and targeting military capabilities and nuclear sites in Iran. In response to the hundreds of missiles launched by the Iranian regime, it is quite obvious that this hostility among these countries have lingered for decades. They have been perceived as arch enemies who would not tolerate each other. Most especially the Islamic State of Iran has considered Israel as an enemy that needed to be annihilated. And Israel, having such understanding, of course, is not leaving any chances for such to happen. Should Iran develop a nuclear weapon or capability, of course, they will deploy it to wipe off the Israeli territory. It's just a matter of hours. And Israel has been on the trail to monitor and investigate the nuclear project or program of Iran in most recent years, based on the threats coming from the Tehran against the Israelis, claiming that they will sink Israel just a matter of minutes if the military capability and the nuclear website or capability is being fully in place. And Israel have understood this to be a potential threat, considering the proximity of Iran to Israel and their processes that have been used to attack and launch some drones and missiles within the Israel territory, leaving scores of civilians and other valuable properties in ruins. Israel at this time have made a very intelligent and articulate, precise strikes targeting the military capabilities in order to frustrate and incapacitate the Iranian military and the air defense force from unleashing or launching a retaliatory attacks on Israel. Of course, what we gathered is that Iran have launched missiles, several missiles in Tel Aviv, leaving scores of civilians dead and so many properties as well damaged. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has come to say that the Tehran regime targeted civilian base and of course casualties were recorded. Israel, in their precise attacks or launch, were able to annihilate top high-ranking military officers and commanders in the Iranian military cadre. It's quite very interesting what is happening. Everyone showing a show of strength among member parties. But sadly, what we are seeing in Nigeria is that there is reaction within the northern Nigeria, which heightens the tension of the already worsened state of insecurity and panic within the Nigerian state. Following the response of the federal government of Nigeria condemning the strikes, the air strikes by the Israeli Defense Force against the Islamic State of Iran. This is what the federal government of Nigeria have to say based on the online Punch newspaper. The government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria condemns Israel's preemptive act strike on Iran that has led to the escalation of hostility between Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Israel, marked by sustained missiles and aerial exchanges across both territories. Now, Nigerian government is coming to take side with Iran, to identify with Iran and condemning the airstrike, the bombardment on military facilities and nuclear websites being developed by the Iranian regime. Now, this was in response to the attack launched by the Iranian regime against Israel. Why should the government of Nigeria be siding one another, one party, rather than suing for peace? These are people who are defending their territorial integrity from external aggression, unlike what is happening in Nigeria today. And this will lead to a possible unrest in the northern part of the country, because there is this alignment, religious alignment, affinity that is, or sentiment that is always expressed whenever there is unrest or disturbance in the Middle East. It appears that the Muslims always want to align with their League of Islamic countries and show some sympathy or sentiments in showing solidarity. Could it be said that Nigeria has been confirmed, of course, by this singular position expressed by Tinubu's administration to be an Islamic state? Recall, on October 7, which year again, was it 2023 or so, an attack was launched on Israel by the proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran on Israel territory, leaving several casualties, and of course more was adopted, over 1,000 or so, which led to the Gaza conflict. While the Gaza conflict is still on, Iran was still interfering, making certain provocations with the proxy groups across Iraq, the Hezbollah, the Hamas, and the rest of them, engineering them to continue the onslaught against Israel. And Israel have understood that Iran was a potential enemy, was the one giving them the backing to unleash mayhem in their territory. This is quite unfortunate indeed, that the Nigerian government, rather than being sitting on the fence, has come down to say this is our position and this is where we clearly stand. We hope that this will not degenerate into, of course, rumbles and chaos within the Nigerian state, because whenever such happens, the government should have been sensitive to understand the terrain and the geographical composition of the Nigerian state, rather than inciting any unrest within the Nigerian state. This is happening in the Middle East, and they should be allowed to fix their problems. They understood what exactly is their grievances. FG calls for immediate cessation of hostilities between Iran and Israel. I hope the federal government of Nigeria will not eventually provoke Israel, because there is any possibility that Israel might turn to Nigeria and to question the audacity of Nigerian government to question its sovereignty and absolute right to defend its territory against an attempt to annihilate the Israeli population. So what exactly is Nigerian government trying to communicate to the outside world? Here today we have Boko Haram ravaging Nigeria within the internal system. This is not about external aggression. Nigeria would have taken time to solve the problem that is local rather than meddling into the Middle East crisis with high sophistications and the rest of them. Does Nigeria have anything to challenge Israel? Should they decide, of course, to visit Nigeria? Because it is all about military capability and intelligence. The Nigerian government have not been able to dislodge the Boko Harams. They are getting more upper hand over the military, dislodging the military, cutting away with their ammunitions and raising down their facilities and the rest of them. So, in my opinion, the government of Nigeria should have looked inward to address its own challenges that is almost engulfing the entire country, setting the entire country ablaze, rather than focusing on the Iranian regime and Tel Aviv. They are independent states and could manage their crisis. Following this development, the Israeli government have made this expression that while the bombardment continues to hit major targeted areas, facilities in Tehran and across Iran, Iran has also responded by launching counter-missiles in Israel territory, leaving scores of people dead. What are we saying? The escalation of this could definitely go beyond the Middle East region, most especially with the volatility of the state of Nigeria as it stands now across religious lines and divides. It might possibly degenerate into something that could not be curtailed. We don't hope that to happen, but then the government should also apply cautions not to meddle into international matters that does not even affect Africa as a whole. What the government should have done is to stay on the fence and call for cessation, for peace on both sides. Now, Iran strikes back after Israeli military targets. This is the report, of course, under review. On June 13, 2025, Israel conducted strikes targeting key figures in Iran's military and nuclear programs, including high-ranking officials like Major General Hussein Salami. In retaliation, Iran launched multiple missile attacks on Israel, leading to significant damage and civilian casualties in Tel Aviv. The conflict has escalated with explosions reported in both Tehran and Tel Aviv, amidst claims of self-defense by Israel and strong condemnation by international observers. That is quite interesting, honestly, and nobody knows how long this will continue because it has been an existential problem that is well rooted in their nature or in their culture or whatever, hatred for one another, most especially the Islamic State of Iran, who considers Israel to be their worst enemy. Left for Israel, Israel would have lived, of course, side by side in harmony, but then one thing is very fundamental: that hatred drives whatever actions or intentions backed by the terror administration. Now, whatever happens, our interest is that such should not be allowed to escalate down to Africa. Otherwise, it could be very devastating, its impact and consequences. Because whenever Israel remembers Nigeria, that will be the end. So Nigeria should understand that there is a limit to how far they could interfere over such matters. Rather should call for both parties to cease fire and sue for peace. Let's have your own take regarding this development. Possibly we might be seeing protests hitting the different streets in the north, and that shouldn't be a surprise, even when such escalations have not taken such dimensions. We've seen on several occasions people coming out to protest against Israel, totally condemning Israel without having a review of the holistic issue that led to the reprisal attacks or retaliatory attacks launched by the Israeli Defense Force or airstrikes, well coordinated. It is quite an interesting moment and a very sad one for those residents in Israel and the Islamic State of Iran. Well, we do hope that, of course, they will sue for peace as quick as that could be possible. Well, whatever happens, I hope our international community is wading into it. However, Israel has suspended all its diplomatic services across the entire world and have instructed its citizens, her citizens, of course, to identify their locations and report the state of events within their localities for the next line of action, possibly for evacuation or for timely response. So Israel values their citizens and will do whatever possible to protect its territory. It is within the recognized international law to defend yourself as a sovereign state, most especially when you are surrounded with arch enemies. These are arch enemies written down to generations past. So it never started today and possibly might not end up today. So that is just the case, except there come a time when the administration of Islamic State, of course, could have different ideologies and perception about life and the existentiality of humans coexistence. So I see it that is a two parallel lines that could never meet until the system of the entire world ends. So it is not a problem that could be solved swiftly, except there is understanding. Of course, that of Israel and Egypt was solved. They reached a bargain, a treaty, and today Israel is no longer fighting Egypt. And Egypt, of course, respect their own boundaries and conduct themselves in such a manner. They are living friendly, whatever be the case. And we do hope that normalcy will return. And also, such will not incite unrest within the Nigerian troubled waters. Thank you for watching. Let's have your own take regarding this development. It is happening live and direct, and the attacks and bombardments continues. Possibly, Israel is having an upper hand, having a more devastating consequences on the nuclear facilities and the military capabilities within the Tehran government or territory. Let's have your own take. What is happening and what possibly that could escalate? Could it lead to regional conflicts or another World War III? Well, let's have your own take regarding this. Thanks for watching. Always a pleasure.